When we think about heart disease, many people imagine sudden and dramatic events: a crushing pain in the chest, a collapse, a race to the hospital. But in reality, heart problems often start quietly, whispering to us in subtle ways long before they shout. And if you're over 50, these whispers are especially important to hear. Your heart has been working faithfully for decades. And while it's resilient, it can also become vulnerable. The earlier we notice those signals, the better our chances of protecting it and living a full, vibrant life. Ivy worked with many patients who were surprised to learn that their body had been warning them for months or even years before a diagnosis. One woman, I'll call Mary, for example, was 62 when she came to see me. She thought she was just getting older because she felt more tired in the afternoons. She told me, "I figured it was normal. I'm in my 60s, of course I'm going to get tired." But as we talked, she admitted that the fatigue wasn't just after long days, it was there even on mornings when she woke up rested. Sometimes she'd feel short of breath walking up the same set of stairs she'd climbed for years. Mary didn't have pain, but she had subtle changes in her energy and breathing that she had brushed aside. When we did some tests, we found she had an early stage of heart disease that was very treatable. That conversation changed her life, because she realized how easily she might have ignored those signs: fatigue, shortness of breath, swelling in the ankles, chest discomfort. These aren't just random annoyances. They can be your heart's way of asking for help. You see, the heart is not just a pump, it's the engine of your life. And like any engine, when it's under strain, it doesn't always break down instantly. Often, it sends out early warning lights. Unfortunately, many of us chalk those up to aging, stress, or just being out of shape. But the truth is, these signs can be the difference between catching a problem early and facing a crisis. For example, have you ever noticed your heart beating faster than usual, even when you're sitting still? That could be a normal response to stress. But it can also be a sign of atrial fibrillation or other rhythm disturbances. These irregular heartbeats can increase your risk of stroke. But they can be detected and treated early if you know what to look for. Or maybe you've experienced occasional chest pressure, not pain exactly, just a heaviness or squeezing that comes and goes. Many people ignore this, thinking it's just indigestion or I must have pulled a muscle. But the heart doesn't always announce trouble with sharp, dramatic pain. In fact, especially in women and older adults, heart-related discomfort can feel like mild pressure, fullness, or even discomfort in the neck, jaw, or back. I once met a retired teacher named James, who thought his only problem was that he couldn't catch his breath when carrying groceries. He assumed he'd just lost stamina over the years, but when he mentioned it to his doctor, they discovered blocked arteries. After treatment, his breathing improved and his energy returned. James told me later, "I wish I had said something sooner. I thought it was nothing. But it was my body trying to tell me everything." This is why awareness matters. It's not about living in fear, it's about living in tune with your body. Think of your heart as a trusted partner. When it starts sending signals, it's asking for your attention. Sometimes those signals are physical, like dizziness or swelling in the legs. Other times, they're more subtle, like changes in your ability to concentrate or feelings of unusual anxiety, which can be linked to changes in blood flow. One thing I always tell people over 50 is to keep a simple health journal. You don't need to write pages every day, just note how you feel, especially if you notice changes in your stamina, breathing, or heart rhythm. Over time, you'll have a record you can share with your doctor, making it easier to spot patterns. Because heart disease is so common, it's easy to think of it as something that just happens with age. But that's not the full story. Many forms of heart disease can be slowed, stopped, or even reversed if caught early. And catching it early starts with noticing. Your body is wiser than you think. It knows when something's off. The challenge is that we live in a busy, often distracted world where we're taught to push through discomfort. But when it comes to your heart, pushing through can be dangerous. Listening and acting early is the key. Another early sign that often gets overlooked is swelling in the feet, ankles, or lower legs. Many people assume it's just from sitting too long, salty food, or even hot weather. While those can be harmless causes, persistent swelling can be a sign that the heart isn't pumping blood as effectively as it should, causing fluid to build up in the tissues. I once had a patient named Robert, a retired mechanic in his late 50s, who came to me complaining about his shoes feeling tighter in the evening. He thought it was because he had gained a little weight. But when I examined him, I noticed the swelling was consistent and paired with a slight shortness of breath. It turned out his heart was under strain. And that swelling was one of the first visible clues. Once we addressed the underlying issue, the swelling went down, and Robert was able to go back to his long walks in the park. Then there's unexplained fatigue, which can be one of the trickiest signs to interpret. Fatigue is common, especially as we age. But there's a difference between being tired after a busy day and feeling a deep, persistent exhaustion that rest doesn't fix. In heart disease, fatigue often happens because the heart isn't delivering enough oxygen-rich blood to the body. You might notice you're avoiding activities you used to enjoy, not because you don't want to do them, but because your body feels like it's running out of fuel too quickly. When we think about heart trouble, we often picture chest symptoms, but shortness of breath can appear before chest discomfort ever does. Some people notice they have to stop more often when climbing stairs, or they wake up at night feeling like they can't get enough air. This is because when the heart's pumping power is reduced, fluid can build up in the lungs, making breathing harder. And here's something that surprises many people sometimes: heart disease shows up in ways that seem unrelated to the chest at all. For example, discomfort in the neck, jaw, shoulder, or back can be a sign of reduced blood flow to the heart. Women, in particular, are more likely to experience these non-traditional symptoms. And they're also more likely to be misdiagnosed or to dismiss the symptoms themselves. That's why I encourage everyone, especially women over 50, to be assertive about their health and to trust their instincts when something feels off. Another often missed sign is an irregular or rapid heartbeat. Sometimes described as fluttering in the chest, you might feel your heart skip a beat, race for no reason, or pound harder than usual. Occasional flutters can be harmless, but if they happen regularly or come with dizziness, weakness, or shortness of breath, they should be checked out. This could indicate an arrhythmia, which can increase the risk of stroke if not treated. Some people also notice changes in their tolerance for temperature, feeling unusually sweaty or clammy without much exertion. This can happen because when the heart is struggling, it activates certain stress responses in the body. And speaking of sweat, one of the most urgent red flags is breaking out in a cold sweat without obvious cause. This is often described by heart attack survivors as feeling different from normal. Perspiration is clammy, sudden, and accompanied by a sense of unease. I remember working with a man named Henry, who was 68 and prided himself on never missing his morning walk. One day, halfway through his usual route, he was suddenly drenched in cold sweat, lightheaded, and nauseated. He thought maybe it was something he ate, but a neighbor convinced him to get checked immediately. He was having a heart attack. The quick action saved his life. What I want you to take from these stories is that your body often gives you a head start. It tries to let you know when something is not right. The tricky part is that the signs can be subtle, varied, and easy to blame on something else. But by knowing what to look for, you can shorten the time between the first sign and the first step toward help. And that time can be life-saving. The good news is, being alert to early signs doesn't mean living in fear. It means living with awareness and respect for your body's signals. If you notice changes that persist or worry you, see your healthcare provider. They can run tests, ask the right questions, and determine whether the heart is the source of the problem. Modern medicine offers many tools to diagnose and treat heart issues earlier than ever before. But those tools work best when we use them in time. You have the ability to be your own first line of defense, not by self-diagnosing, but by paying attention and speaking up. Your heart is too important to ignore, and every beat it gives you is a chance to care for it better. Now that we've talked about the signs, let's focus on what you can do starting today to protect your heart, especially if you've noticed any of these early warnings. The first and most important step is to take your symptoms seriously. Don't wait until they become severe. If you feel something unusual, whether it's shortness of breath, swelling, irregular heartbeat, or persistent fatigue, write it down and make an appointment with your doctor. Even if it turns out to be nothing urgent, you'll have taken an important step toward understanding your health. Next, remember that prevention and early action work hand in hand. A healthy lifestyle can dramatically reduce your risk of heart disease and, in some cases, even reverse early damage. This means focusing on balanced nutrition, regular physical activity, managing stress, and getting enough quality sleep. If you're over 50, exercise doesn't have to be intense to be effective. Walking, swimming, light strength training, or even gentle yoga can keep your heart strong and your circulation healthy. Diet is another cornerstone of heart health. Prioritize whole foods, vegetables, fruits, whole grains, lean proteins, and healthy fats from sources like fish, nuts, and olive oil. Limit processed foods high in sugar, salt, and unhealthy fats. And don't forget about hydration. Your blood needs enough fluid to flow easily through your vessels, and dehydration can make the heart work harder. Managing blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar is also critical. These numbers are like a snapshot of your heart's workload, and when they're too high, they add extra strain. Regular checkups will help you track them, and small changes in diet, activity, and sometimes medication can make a big difference. Stress management often gets overlooked, but it's a powerful tool for protecting your heart. Chronic stress triggers a constant release of hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, which raise blood pressure and inflammation. Practices like meditation, deep breathing, spending time in nature, or connecting with loved ones can calm this stress response and give your heart a break. One of my favorite stories is of a couple in their 70s, Margaret and Tom, who decided to make heart health their shared project. They began by taking short daily walks together, slowly increasing their pace and distance. They started cooking more meals at home, experimenting with new vegetables and spices, but perhaps most importantly, they checked in with each other about how they were feeling physically and emotionally. Over time, they noticed fewer aches, more energy, and a deeper sense of connection. Margaret told me, "It's like we're giving each other more time." That's the beauty of paying attention early. You don't just prevent illness, you enhance life. If you've been listening and recognizing some of the signs we've discussed, you might feel concerned. That's natural. But I want you to remember, heart health is not about perfection, it's about progress. Every step you take to listen to your body, to nourish it, to move it, to rest it, is a step toward a stronger heart. And every conversation you have with your healthcare provider, every early test, every checkup is a way of giving yourself a safety net. Think of this knowledge as your early warning system, one you can use to stay ahead. Just as you wouldn't ignore a strange noise in your car's engine, you shouldn't ignore unusual changes in your body. Your heart is a remarkable organ. It beats more than 100,000 times a day without you having to think about it. It has carried you through every laugh, every challenge, every quiet moment. And with the right care, it can keep doing so for decades to come. I encourage you to take a quiet moment after this video to reflect. Ask yourself, have I noticed changes in my energy, my breathing, my heartbeat? Have I experienced swelling, unusual sweating, or discomfort in my chest, back, neck, or jaw? If the answer is yes to any of these, don't push them aside. Write them down and make the call to your doctor. If the answer is no, celebrate that but keep listening, because awareness is an ongoing gift you can give yourself. The early signs of heart problems are not meant to frighten you, they're meant to empower you. By recognizing them, you can act before the damage is done. That's the real power here, knowing that your future heart health is not just a matter of chance, but a result of the choices and attention you give it today. I've seen lives transformed because someone decided to listen early. I've seen fear turn into relief, worry turn into confidence, and illness turn into a story of recovery. And I believe that can be your story too. So, take this knowledge with you. Share it with your friends and family, and let it be a reminder that your heart is worth every bit of care you can give it, because in the end, Listening to your heart, truly listening, might just be the most life-saving thing you ever do.